Chapter 1. Ethan, I don't like you. You're a nice guy, but we really need to focus on our college applications right now. Chloe Sterling stood outside the main academic building, her chin tilted up like a proud swan. We were surrounded by a crowd of jeering classmates. Had this been my past life, I would have been crying my eyes out by now, swearing to wait for her forever. But now, looking at the bouquet of roses in her hand, the ones I'd saved my lunch money for weeks to buy, I just felt like the water had finally drained from my brain. I snatched the roses back and shoved them backward into the hands of the janitor who was rolling her trash cart by. Here you go, ma'am. Put these in a vase at home. May you stay forever young. The entire courtyard fell dead silent. Chloe's smile froze on her face. Ethan, are you crazy? I casually dug a finger in my ear and pointed at the Ferrari that had just pulled up nearby. It belonged to the wealthy trust fund kid, Tristan Rhodes. Don't misunderstand. I just suddenly realized that instead of playing the simp, I'd rather just be a menace. I turned and walked straight toward Tristan, patting my former rival on the shoulder with a demonic grin. Bro, you look like you've got the spine for it. I'm officially passing the crown of the ultimate simp to you. Tristan had just stepped out of his Ferrari. He had his aviators on and an unlit cigarette hanging from his lips, perfectly poised to play out the classic. Save the damsel and flex on the broke guy routine. He was completely caught off guard by my sudden burst of enthusiasm. Who the hell are you? He pushed his sunglasses up, looking at me warily. I shook his hand vigorously, like I was greeting a long-lost brother. Tristan, my man, I've heard so much about you. From now on, Chloe is all yours. I'm officially tapping out. Tristan's mouth dropped open into an O, his cigarette almost tumbling to the pavement. The surrounding students absolutely lost it, their whispers erupting into a buzzing cacophony of gossip. Chloe's face cycled through shades of green and white, more colorful than a painter's palette. Ethan Vance, what kind of sick joke is this? She charged over, trying to snatch the flowers back, but they were already safely tucked into the janitor's cart. The older woman cheerfully waved at me and wheeled her cart away. I ignored Chloe completely. Instead, I pulled a crumpled little notebook from my pocket and slapped it into Tristan's chest. Tristan, don't mention it. Consider this my handover report. Tristan looked down. Written in bold marker across the cover were the words, "The Ultimate Simp Manual." I cleared my throat and addressed the entire school of eager onlookers at the top of my lungs. Important guidelines for dating Miss Chloe Sterling are as follows. Rule number 1. She hates onions, but she loves the everything bagels from the deli downtown. So you have to use tweezers to pick off every single dried onion flake before you give it to her. Rule number 2. She only drinks matcha boba tea with 50% sweetness and no ice. But if she's having a bad day, you have to buy it with 100% sweetness, because she'll look at you and say, I'm already so sad, can't I at least have something sweet? Rule number 3. She likes surprises, but hates being shocked. Giving her 99 roses is a surprise. Giving her 999 is a shock, because she'll think you're being too flashy and embarrassing her in front of everyone. With every rule I listed, Chloe's face grew a shade paler. The expressions of our classmates shifted from pure shock to suppressed giggles to roaring laughter. Ethan, shut your mouth. Chloe was trembling with rage, her eyes instantly turning red. I turned a deaf ear and continued my handover ceremony. Rule number 4. When she posts I'm so bored on her Instagram story, it means you need to magically appear in front of her right that second. If she posts so exhausted today, it means you need to buy her favorite cupcakes and deliver them to her doorstep. If she posts a picture of the sky with no caption, she's mad at you, and you need to call her 100 times to beg for forgiveness. You got all that, man? There are over 300 rules in this manual, all compiled from my blood, sweat, and tears. I'm transferring the IP to you, free of charge. I patted Tristan's shoulder with the solemn weight of a mentor. Then, right in front of everyone, I pulled out my phone and opened the eBay app. Click. I snapped a picture of the solid silver Tiffany bracelet in my hand, the one I had saved 3 months' worth of allowances to buy. Title, Essential Simp Gear. Mint condition. Seller has seen the light, reluctantly parting with it at 50% off. May it bless the next poor soul. Price, $1.99. Listing, published. The entire process was smooth, executed in one breathless, flawless sequence. Chloe stared at my phone screen. That bracelet, the one she had previously praised as having such a beautiful design, was now being pawned off as simp gear for pennies. Her tears finally spilled over. Ethan Vance, don't you dare regret this, she forced through gritted teeth. I pocketed my phone, turned back to her, and gave her a brilliant, radiant smile. Whoever regrets, it is a loser. With that, I turned back to the dumbfounded Tristan. Good luck, bro. I'm rooting for you. She's crying right now, which is prime real estate for you to score some points. Tristan looked at me, then looked at the tear-stained Chloe. He adjusted his sunglasses, looking as if his brain was still rebooting from the massive information overload. Incredibly, he actually reached into his pocket for a pack of tissues, hesitating over whether to hand them to her. I didn't bother looking at them again. I turned and pushed my way through the crowd. Behind me, I could hear Chloe's muffled sobs and the explosive chatter of the student body. Did he really just dump Chloe? That's brutal. He just dragged the school's most popular girl through the mud in front of everyone. I don't know, though. Why does it feel so satisfying to watch? I didn't look back. Regret? In my past life, because of this exact rainy night confession, I caught pneumonia from standing in the downpour, eventually dying a bitter and depressed man. Did she ever regret it for a single second then? In this life, it was my turn to feel satisfied. The sound of Chloe's crying grew louder behind me. She clearly hadn't expected me to actually walk away without a backward glance. She was probably still waiting, expecting me to turn around and apologize the second she frowned, just like I had done countless times before. Unfortunately for her, that Ethan Vance died on a rainy night a long time ago. Tristan stood there holding the ultimate Simp Manual like it was a live grenade, completely frozen in place. I returned to my homeroom, and the world instantly felt peaceful. I cracked open a brand new copy of Barron's AP Calculus, and inhaling the fresh scent of the ink, I felt incredibly refreshed. Love? Goddesses? Could any of that compare to the high of crushing practice exams? I was an idiot in my past life. I wasted my academic potential and ruined my future over a girl who couldn't care less about me. This time around, MIT. Here I come. I had barely finished 2 multiple-choice questions when a commotion broke out at the classroom door. Chloe walked in with red, puffy eyes, her best friend Mia, Harper, whispering consolations beside her. She marched straight to my desk, immediately drawing the eyes of the entire class. I didn't even lift my head, continuing to calculate a complex physics equation. Clatter! A beautiful limited edition cherry blossom fountain pen dropped right by my foot. This was Chloe's go-to trick. In the past, whenever she dropped something, I would immediately scramble to the floor like a dog to retrieve it. For her, just to earn a cool, dismissive thanks. Now, I flicked the toe of my sneaker, kicking the pen squarely into the corner of the room. Excuse me, your trash is blocking the aisle. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried perfectly through the dead silent room. The air froze. Chloe's face flushed a deep, furious crimson. She pointed a trembling finger at me, unable to choke out a single word. Mia quickly tried to smooth things over. Oh, Chloe, Ethan's probably just in a bad mood. I'll get it for you. She bent down to retrieve it, but Chloe grabbed her arm. No, I'll get it myself. Chloe had to practically crouch on the floor to fish her pen out from the dusty corner, looking utterly pathetic. A few suppressed snickers echoed around the room. The wind had shifted. From this moment on, everything was different. Before, everyone thought I was a toad trying to eat swan meat by chasing after Chloe. Now, when they looked at me, their eyes held a mix of awe and morbid curiosity. During lunch, I was on my way to the cafeteria when a figure blocked my path in the hallway. It was Tristan. He had taken off his sunglasses, and his decently handsome face was a canvas of rage and grievance. Ethan, did you set me up? He slammed a plastic cup of boba tea onto the windowsill in front of me, the liquid sloshing wildly. I did exactly what you said. I bought her the full sugar version, and she yelled at me, saying I was mocking her for being fat. I glanced at the boba tea, calmly picked it up, poked the straw through the seal, and took a massive gulp. Not bad. Tristan jumped up and down in anger. How can you drink at a time like this? I asked you a question. I swallowed the boba slowly and looked at him with deadpan seriousness. Tristan, my guy, you're still too green. What does that mean? She wasn't mad about the sugar. She was mad because your delivery wasn't submissive enough. You didn't grovel. Understand. I launched into the reverse PUA masterclass I had been brewing. Think about it. You roll up in a Ferrari, dripping in designer brands, and casually hand her a drink. She's going to feel like you're giving her charity. There's no sincerity in that. Tristan was completely bamboozled. Then, what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to wait for a downpour, forget your umbrella, and sprint across the entire city just to buy the exact drink she wants. Then, you show up in front of her, dripping wet, and tell her you searched everywhere for it. That is sincerity. If she casually mentions she's craving something at 3 in the morning, you get up and go buy it. That is attitude. When she gets mad at you, you can't get angry. You have to reflect on yourself. Ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Did I not care enough? My stream of absolute garbage philosophy had Tristan staring off into space. His eyes glazed over. It was like I had opened the door to a whole new universe for him. He muttered to himself, I had no idea. Pursuing a girl was such a profound science. I patted him on the shoulder, concealing my inner mastermind. You're a teachable student. Tristan suddenly grabbed my hand, his eyes shining with absolute worship. Ethan, from this day forward, you are my brother. Teach me. Teach me how to be a proper, no, a top-tier backup plan. Chapter 2. I almost burst out laughing. Good Lord, someone actively begging to be a backup plan? That was a first. Tuition fee. I held out my hand. Tristan didn't miss a beat. He reached into his pocket and shoved an unopened box of imported Arturo Fuentes cigars into my hands. Is this enough? If not, I've got more in the car. Plenty. I accepted the tuition fee with satisfaction. Turning around, I spotted Chloe standing a short distance away, staring in absolute disbelief at the sight of us acting like best buds. She was probably racking her brain, trying to figure out how her number one simp and her most prominent suitor had formed a strategic alliance within the span of a single morning. Her worldview was destined to be repeatedly shattered and rebuilt today. Before the first afternoon bell, I strolled into the Dean of Students' office, carrying the box of cigars. Dean Henderson, I know you've been working your voice raw handling school affairs lately. Just a little token of appreciation from a student. I placed the box on his desk. Dean Henderson was famously strict, but he had one well-known weakness. He loved a good smoke. He looked at the cigars, then at me, his gaze softening considerably. You're Ethan Vance, right? Your homeroom teacher mentioned you've really been hitting the books lately. Doing my part to become a productive member of society is every student's duty, sir. I stood at perfect attention. Dean Henderson nodded in satisfaction. Excellent. Great attitude. Keep studying hard. The school always takes care of its ambitious students. Walking out his office, I felt like I had the green light to walk sideways through the halls. As for the cigars, Tristan's tuition fee had to be spent where it mattered most. Back in the classroom, Chloe's seat was empty. Rumor had it she was so upset she checked out early. I felt absolutely nothing. In fact, I wanted to laugh. We were barely getting started. The real show was yet to come. If this groveling for forgiveness arc didn't burn her to a crisp, it would be an insult to all the tears I shed in my past life. A month later, the results for the statewide mock exams were posted. On the bright red honor roll displayed in the main lobby, the top name was glaringly obvious: Ethan Vance. Rank, first in the state. Total score, perfect. The whole school went nuts. In the past, my grades had always hovered around the lower middle tier, the kind of student teachers had mostly given up on. But over the last month, aside from eating and sleeping, I poured every single second into practice questions. Combining the rock-solid foundation I had built studying for grad school in my past life with the futuristic memories in my head, I absolutely devoured the curriculum. I didn't get to live the prodigy life last time around, but this time I was going to ride it all the way to the top. My teachers spat everywhere from excitement as they praised me at the front of the room, using me as the ultimate prodigal son returns success story. I sat at my desk, expressionless, basking in the envious and jealous stares of my classmates. But I could distinctly feel one pair of eyes on me that was incredibly complex. It was Chloe. Her rank had dropped by over a dozen spots this time, pushing her out of the top 50. For someone who had always paraded herself as a straight-A student, it was a massive blow. She looked awful, staring at her report card, then glancing up at my name on the honor roll. The imbalance in her eyes was practically spilling over. After class, everyone huddled together to gossip about the rankings. Chloe held a math packet, hesitating for a long time before finally walking over to my desk. The entire classroom instantly went silent. Everyone perked their ears up, ready for the drama. Ethan, she spoke up, her voice carrying an almost imperceptible tremor. This analytic geometry problem, I'm a bit stuck on it. Could you explain it to me? Her tone still carried that haughty, high and mighty restraint, as if asking me for help was her bestowing a massive favor upon me. In the past, I would have been overwhelmingly flattered and poured out every ounce of my knowledge for her. But now, I slowly pulled a printed piece of paper from my desk drawer and taped it to the corner of my desk. It was a Venmo QR code. Sure. I pointed at the code. Tutoring, $50 a question. Guaranteed to help you understand. No credit, no IOUs. Venmo and Cash App accepted. Chloe's expression froze. She probably thought she was hallucinating. What did you say? I said, knowledge is behind a paywall. I enunciated every word clearly. My time is valuable. I can't waste it on things that don't bring me value. Her face flushed crimson, as if I had just slapped her in public. Our friendship is only worth $50 to you. Her voice shook with rage. I let out a cold laugh. Wrong. Our friendship is completely worthless. This $50 is the monetary value of my knowledge as the valedictorian. Before the words fully landed, someone shoved their way to the front. It was Tristan. Ethan, bro, I don't get this question either. You gotta explain it to me. He pointed at the exact same question on Chloe's packet, then whipped out his phone. Ding. I'll give you 100. Keep the change. My phone immediately chimed with a notification. Venmo. You received $100. I instantly threw on a warm, springtime smile and enthusiastically pulled up a chair. Boss Tristan, right this way. Let me draw out the graph for you. I guarantee you'll understand it perfectly. I took Tristan's packet and started sketching on a piece of scratch paper, completely treating Chloe like thin air. Tristan nodded along, his eyes full of admiration. Chloe was left hanging, awkward and ignored. She watched the harmonious master and apprentice dynamic between Tristan and me, and felt the mocking, clown-like stares from the rest of the class. Her lips turned white from how hard she was biting them. I could even hear her rapid, ragged breathing. Finally, unable to take it anymore, she whipped around and bolted out of the classroom. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of her red rims and the tears bursting from her eyes. This was the first time she had ever felt such intense pain and humiliation from being ignored by me. Satisfying. This felt even better than getting first place. Tristan leaned in and whispered, Ethan, bro, did I do something wrong again? Why is she crying again? I patted him on the back and gave him a profound, knowing smile. You didn't do anything wrong. She's crying because she's starting to realize she lost the best guy in the world, me. And you're currently receiving guidance from the best guy in the world. She's just jealous. Tristan nodded, half understanding, his gaze turning even more reverent. Bro, you're literally a philosopher. I agreed wholeheartedly. Exactly. I was the Socrates of romance, dedicated to using cold, hard truth to pop people's delusional bubbles. And Chloe's delusion was only just beginning to shatter. This little hook had already given her a taste of ultimate humiliation. Next, how would she try to salvage her dignity? I was genuinely curious. Tristan had been completely brainwashed by me, hanging on every word of his new relationship guru. So, at his earnest request, I planned a grand, school history-making confession for him. Of course, it was going to be the tackiest thing imaginable. Bro, are we really doing this with funeral flowers? Tristan's face turned green as he stared at the 999 white lilies and chrysanthemums the florist had just dropped off. Aren't these usually for, dead people? Shut up. I cut him off. This represents purity, being untainted by the mortal world. Roses are too cliché. Only these can match a goddess as pristine as Chloe. I pointed to a massive LED sign nearby. And this, when it lights up tonight, it's going to scroll the words, Chloe Sterling, my heart only hardens for you. How alpha is that? Tristan was skeptical, but easily swayed by my absolute confidence. Out of his blind worship for me, he bit the bullet and followed through. Just before evening study hall, a massive crowd gathered on the football field. The 999 funeral flowers were arranged into a giant heart, looking exceptionally somber in the evening breeze. Tristan, dressed in a white tuxedo, stood in the center of the funeral flower heart holding a megaphone, looking like a priest about to officiate a wake. Chloe was half-dragged, half-pulled to the field by her best friend, Mia. When she saw the sea of funeral flowers and the looming LED sign, she turned to stone. It's starting. People in the crowd cheered. Tristan took a deep breath, clicked on a megaphone, and screamed the tacky pickup lines I had taught him with all his might. Chloe, without you, my world is black and white. But after meeting you, wow, it went completely pitch black. Oofed. The entire school erupted into earth-shattering laughter. A few students laughed so hard they collapsed onto the turf. Tristan kept going. People say I'm just a trust fund kid who solves problems with money. But today, I want to use my true heart to smash open the doors to yours. Chloe, be my girlfriend. Right on cue, the LED sign blazed to life. Chloe Sterling, my heart only hardens for you. Those massive letters flashed in blinding neon pink, casting an eerie glow over Chloe's ghostly pale face. Aha! Hardens? What exactly is hardening? Someone save me. I'm cringing so hard I'm going to pass out. The laughter, the jeers, the flashes of phone cameras. They hit Chloe like millions of needles. She felt a level of profound disgrace she had never experienced in her life. She violently shoved Mia away. Like an enraged lioness, she stormed down the bleachers and shoved a deeply in the zone Tristan squarely in the chest. Tristan stumbled back and landed flat on his back in the middle of the funeral flowers. But Chloe's target wasn't him. She marched straight through the crowd and stopped right in front of me. At that moment, I was leaning against a tree, casually eating a hot dog I'd just bought from a street vendor, a bit of ketchup still lingering on my lip. Ethan Vance. Her voice was shrill, laced with sobs. You did this on purpose, didn't you? Chapter 3. You orchestrated all of this. You're just trying to get my attention using these sick methods. The entire field went dead quiet. Everyone's eyes shifted from Tristan lying in the funeral flowers to Chloe and me. They were all waiting for me to confess, waiting for me to play out the tragic, if I can't have you, I'll destroy you romantic anti-hero trope. I took my time swallowing the last bite of my hot dog and wiped my mouth. Then, I spread my hands in a portrait of pure innocence. What does this have to do with me? I'm just an innocent bystander who bought a hot dog and came to watch the show. My tone was dripping with so much wide-eyed bewilderment that it almost seemed like I genuinely had no idea what was going on. Chloe completely broke down. She pointed a finger at me, tears streaming down her face like a broken pearl necklace. You were never like this before. You swore you'd never marry anyone but me. You said you'd do anything for me. She ripped open the last, most agonizing memories of our past in front of everyone. This was her trump card. She thought I would at least feel a shred of guilt or embarrassment. Instead, I casually reached down and picked up Tristan's spare mini megaphone from the grass. I flicked the switch, and my voice echoed clearly across the entire athletic field. I pointed straight at the girl standing next to her, Mia Harper, who was pretending to comfort Chloe while clearly enjoying the drama. You're right, that was in the past. Back then, I was blind. I didn't recognize true beauty when it was right in front of me. Silence blanketed the field once again. Chloe's sobs hitched in her throat as she stared at me blankly. I cleared my throat and, using a voice not too loud but perfectly audible to everyone, dropped a massive bomb. I just realized that your best friend, Mia Harper, is actually a lot easier on the eyes than you are. In a split second, Chloe's face shifted from ghostly pale to a furious, sickening green. Beside her, Mia looked stunned, followed quickly by an expression of extreme flattery. This was the ultimate bloodbath. I watched Chloe's expression practically shatter under the double blow of betrayal and abandonment. In my mind, there was only one word. Satisfying. Did you think this was the end, Chloe? No, this is just the appetizer. I want you to feel exactly what it's like to be stabbed in the back by the person you trust most. Mia Harper, Chloe's best friend. In my past life, she constantly talked trash about me to Chloe, enjoying the snacks I bought for Chloe while simultaneously urging her to stay away from the broke loser. A textbook two-faced fake friend. Now, my comment about her being prettier instantly made her the center of attention. After her initial shock, a sly look of smugness crept onto her face. She probably thought that I, the newly minted valedictorian and ultimate high-value prospect, had finally recognized her beauty and was switching targets to pursue her instead. Chloe stared at her in utter disbelief. Mia instantly shifted into an innocent, victimized expression, holding Chloe's arm. Chloe, don't misunderstand. There's absolutely nothing going on between Ethan and me. He's probably just mad and saying crazy things. Her mouth said one thing, but her eyes couldn't help but dart flirtatiously in my direction. Their plastic friendship shattered right then and there, plain for all to see. Early the next morning, I found a hot latte and a breakfast sandwich waiting on my desk. Mia had put it there. She gave me a shy smile. Ethan, thanks for, helping me out of that awkward spot yesterday. She actually interpreted my insult to Chloe as me helping her out. I picked up the latte and looked at it. You want to get breakfast together? Her eyes lit up and she nodded eagerly. Sure. I pulled up my Venmo code again. We're going Dutch. The latte was $5. The sandwich was $6. That's 11 total. You pay first. Mia's smile froze on her face. She clearly hadn't expected her new suitor to nickel and dime her right out of the gate. But to reel in a big catch like me, she gritted her teeth and scanned the code. Ethan, you're so principled, she praised awkwardly. I took a bite of the sandwich. Of course, business is business, especially since we're not exactly close. During lunch, Mia bumped into me again and insisted on buying me a boba. I happily accepted and watched her pay for it. All of this was witnessed by Chloe, who was standing not too far away. She watched Mia and me, laughing and joking, and her jealousy spread like wildfire. She finally snapped and stormed over. Mia Harper, do you have no shame? Chloe pointed at her, shaking with rage. Mia immediately ducked behind me, looking like she was about to cry. Chloe, please don't be like this. Ethan and I are just normal friends. Tristan, bless his idiotic heart, scurried over at that moment and whispered to me, Bro, is this the feint to the east, attack in the west tactic from the art of war? Your real target is still Chloe, right? I gave him a look that said, You have so much to learn. Exactly. Great observation, Tristan. Keep watching and learn. Seeing that I wasn't stepping in, Chloe turned her crosshairs on me. Ethan Vance, you're only getting close to Mia to get back at me. You're despicable. I swallowed the last bite of my sandwich, finished my milk, and let out a burp. Then, looking at the two girls in front of me, one playing innocent, the other just genuinely stupid, I went full savage. Get back at you? Chloe, you think way too highly of yourself. As for you, I turned to Mia. Don't think I don't know what you're plotting. Last semester, who was the one constantly mooching off Chloe's lunches, crying about being broke, but then turned around and bought the newest iPhone? Who was the one telling Chloe I wasn't good enough for her, but secretly asking me what my chances were of getting into an Ivy League? All the color drained from Mia's face. She never imagined that the secrets she thought were perfectly hidden were fully known to me. I didn't, she tried to deny it. You didn't? So last Wednesday after gym class, when you told your other friend that once Chloe and Tristan got together, you'd swoop in and lock me down, did I just make that up too? Mia was completely paralyzed. Her mouth hung open, but no words came out. Chloe was stunned too. She stared at her best friend, her eyes filled with shock and disappointment. I delivered my closing statement. One's playing innocent, and the other's just stupid. You two are a match made in heaven. A perfect pair. With that, I shoved past them and strode away. I left them standing there. One with her true colors exposed, the other betrayed by her closest ally. The atmosphere was excruciatingly awkward. Funnily enough, when Chloe realized I was equally ruthless to Mia, a sliver of relief mixed in with her anger. She seemed to think that as long as I didn't actually like someone else, she still had a chance. Her bizarre mental gymnastics were truly a marvel. The pathetic girl didn't know that my patience for her had already been utterly depleted. Her best friend was now a useless pawn. What ridiculous move would she make next? Chloe must have read some garbage article online claiming that men love the domestic wife type. And so, our high and mighty school beauty launched a dramatic makeover campaign. The next morning, a Made with Love bento box appeared on my desk. It was pink, with a crooked heart drawn on top in ketchup. Chloe delivered it herself. She dropped the haughty attitude, her face flushed with a nervous, eager-to-please redness. Ethan, I made breakfast for you myself. Try it. The class's gossip radar went into overdrive. I opened the box. An indescribable burnt smell mixed with a bizarre sweetness hit me in the face, nearly knocking me out cold. There were 2 eggs, one charred to a crisp, the other a semi-liquid mess. A few strips of bacon were shriveled up like they'd just been rescued from house fire. I calmly closed the lid without changing my expression. Just then, Tristan strolled in. Morning, Ethan. In a stroke of genius, I shoved the bento box into his hands. Tristan, perfect timing. This is a breakfast made with love by your goddess herself. Eat up. Don't let her hard work go to waste. Tristan's eyes lit up, his voice cracking with excitement. Really, Chloe, you finally noticed me. Chloe panicked. Ethan, I made that for you. I looked at her innocently. Didn't you tell me to try it? I just felt that a breakfast this precious should be given to the person who needs it most. Tristan is deeply devoted to you. If he doesn't deserve it, who does? Tristan had already eagerly popped the lid open and picked up the piece of charred egg with his fork. He looked at Chloe with deep affection. Chloe, thank you. This is the best breakfast I've ever had in my life. He shoved it into his mouth. A second later, his expression froze. His face morphed from excitement to agony, from agony to contortion. His features scrunched together, and tears literally sprang to his eyes. But staring at Chloe's expectant gaze, he somehow managed to force the hazardous material down his throat. Then, with tears in his eyes, he gave a thumbs up. It's so good. Exactly what I wanted. Chloe stamped her foot in frustration. But seeing my expression of look how touched he is, she couldn't bring herself to yell. The breakfast plan was declared a failure. But she didn't give up. During P.E. class, after I had just finished running a mile and was panting like a dog, Chloe ran over with a bottle of ice water. Out of breath herself. Ethan here. Drink some water. Chapter 4. Her pale cheeks were flushed, her eyes carrying a glimmer of hope. The guys around us glared at me with absolute envy and hatred. I panted and looked at the bottle of water. How much? Venmo or cash? Chloe's smile stiffened. I'm giving this to you. Oh, forget it then. I waved her off. I don't accept charity. I turned and walked to the vending machine to buy my own. I cracked it open and chugged half of it down. I left Chloe standing alone on the track, clutching the bottle of water, looking like a clown abandoned by the world. Her eyes rimmed red again, tears of grievance welling up before finally spilling over. I didn't bother to give her a second glance, turning around to throw an arm over a buddy's shoulder as we debated the basketball game happening that night. The guys in my class had shifted their gaze from awe to outright worship. Ethan, you're a legend. You got the hottest girl in school totally whipped. That's a real man right there. If a girl like that even looked at me, I'd be bragging about it for a week. I felt absolutely nothing. What was wrong with this girl? Did she just refill her brain after I drained all the water out? How had she still not given up? It was getting annoying. All I wanted to do was study in peace and get into MIT. Could she just leave me alone? Chloe's makeover campaign failed spectacularly time after time, turning her into the school's biggest joke. The lower she stooped to please me, the colder and more ruthless I became. This massive contrast repeatedly crushed her arrogant ego. Would she give up now? No. Knowing her, her damn competitive streak would only make her more stubborn. Just as Chloe's desperate pursuit hit a wall, something unexpected happened. Tristan's family ran into major trouble. Due to some malicious rumors, his father's company stock tanked for several consecutive days, wiping out millions in market value. Tristan deflated completely. His arrogant swagger vanished, and he spent every class staring blankly into space. During lunch, I found him signed to himself on the roof. "Bro, are we going to go from trust fund kids to busted fun kids?" he asked miserably. I patted his shoulder and handed him a Coke. "Don't panic," I casually dropped a hint. "I was reading some financial news lately. There's this green energy company, Apex Technologies, that's supposedly making some major moves. But it's just rumors. Hard to say." I left it at that. In my previous life, it was exactly 1 month from now that Apex Tech announced a revolutionary battery technology, sending their stock to the moon, increasing tenfold. Tristan's family company went bankrupt precisely because they missed out on that boom and were shorted by rivals. Tristan's eyes instantly lit up. He was dumb when it came to romance, but not when it came to business. He caught my drift immediately. "Ethan, I get it." He bolted off the roof, immediately calling his dad. I kept my mastermind status concealed. It was a minor favor, just paying him back for the cigars he gave me. A week later, Tristan sought me out, his face glowing red with excitement. He grabbed my hands, looking like he was about to drop to his knees. "Ethan, you're my brother." "No, you're my dad." It turned out his father, acting on his tip and desperate for a lifeline, had dumped the company's remaining liquid assets in a buying the dip on Apex Technologies. Just yesterday, Apex Tech had announced their new tech ahead of schedule, and the stock hit the circuit breaker for 7 consecutive days of gains. Not only did the Rhodes family recover all their losses, they made an absolute fortune. Tristan's dad had praised him over the phone, calling him a business prodigy. But Tristan knew the truth. The real god was me. "Bro, whatever you say goes. If you tell me to jump, I'll ask how high." He pounded his chest, looking at me with total reverence. "I finally get it. Women only slow down my grind. Chasing Chloe? Pointless. I'd rather follow you and learn how to make millions on the stock market." Tristan publicly announced he was officially dropping his pursuit of Chloe, declaring himself my #1 right-hand man from that day forward. The news sprouted wings, spreading across the whole school by the afternoon. When Chloe heard the news, she was in the middle of a math problem. Snap! The pencil in her hand broke in two. Tristan was her final and most heavy-hitting backup plan. His existence gave her a false sense of superiority, the idea that even if Ethan doesn't want me, I have a better option. Now, even her ultimate safety net was gone, and he had run off to follow me of all people. Her panic meters instantly maxed out. She was completely terrified. She started trying to use other guys to make me jealous. The jock who had always harbored a crush on her offered her a water bottle, and she didn't refuse. After school, the nerd from the neighboring class asked to walk her home, and she agreed. I saw all these little stunts. When she walked past me laughing with the jock, secretly side-eyeing me to gauge my reaction, I initiated a slow clap. "Oh, you two are together? Congratulations. Wishing you a lifetime of happiness and beautiful kids." My voice was booming, my blessing entirely sincere. The jock was so startled by my aura that he flinched, mumbled an excuse, and ran for his life. Chloe's face turned the color of a bruised eggplant. Isolated and abandoned by everyone. I was genuinely curious. Pushed to this extreme, what ridiculous move could the once high and mighty popular girl possibly make next? She had played all her cards. There was only one left, the one she dreaded most, completely abandoning her pathetic pride. Would she do it? Chloe's birthday arrived. She made a massive spectacle of it, booking a banquet hall at the most expensive hotel near the school and inviting the entire class. She even had Mia hand-deliver a gold-embossed invitation to me. Mia, by the way, now took the long way around the halls just to avoid me. Tristan held his invitation, leaning toward me. "Ethan, you going?" This is obviously a trap. I originally had no intention of going. This kind of pointless socializing was a waste of time. But Tristan changed my mind with one sentence. I heard her dad dumped a bunch of the money he just made back in a market into this party, just to save face. I smirked. If there was a show to watch, why not go? I needed to see for myself how this final bubble would burst. The hotel was brilliantly lit on the night of the party. Chloe wore a pristine white princess dress and flawless makeup. She looked like real royalty standing at the entrance, greeting guests. When she saw me, her eyes immediately lit up. But when she saw I was completely empty-handed, having brought 0 gifts, the light died down. I completely ignored her. Tristan and I found a spot near the buffet in the corner and started stuffing our faces. Bro, this Boston lobster is incredible. Try it. The foie gras isn't bad either, just a bit rich. We ate like kings, treating the event like an all-you-can-eat buffet. Halfway through the night came the gift-giving segment. Classmates presented their carefully chosen gifts one by one. Chloe smiled elegantly and thanked them, but her eyes kept darting toward my corner. Finally, someone called it out. Ethan, what did you get the birthday girl? All eyes zeroed in on me. A look of anticipation crept onto Chloe's face. I wiped my mouth with a napkin and stood up. Of course I brought a gift. I grabbed Tristan and shoved him forward. I brought Tristan. He's rich, his family just dodged a massive bullet, and his future is incredibly bright. He is the best gift I could possibly give to Miss Sterling. The room erupted into gasps. Tristan's face turned green. He now looked at Chloe the way one might look at a plague rat. Bro, don't do this to me. I'm totally over her, he protested under his breath. All the color drained from Chloe's face. She probably never expected me to humiliate her again in a setting like this. She picked up a glass of red wine and downed it in one gulp, then another, and another. Soon enough, she was drunk. She stumbled over to me and, in front of everyone, threw a total tantrum. Ethan, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please, can we go back to how it was? She was crying hysterically, her makeup running, stripping away every ounce of her princess persona. I like you. I've always liked you. I was just too proud before. Oh boy, the climax of the soap opera had arrived. I calmly pulled out my phone and switched to the camera app, hitting record. All right, everyone look at the camera. I need you all as witnesses. Chloe Sterling is currently harassing me. I'm a law-abiding citizen, so if she tries to get physical, I'm going to need you guys to help me call the cops. My words were a bucket of ice water dumped directly over Chloe's head, and over the heads of everyone watching the spectacle. Mia saw an opening and tried to step in to hold Chloe, trying to play the good friend and score points with me. I shot her a death glare. Back off. Just 2 words, and Mia shrank away terrified. I pocketed my phone, having no interest in watching this farce continue, and turned to leave. Ethan, don't go, Chloe shrieked, chasing after me. Her ankle twisted in her high heels, and she crashed heavily to the floor. Thud. It sounded painful. Everyone assumed I would turn around, that I'd play the hero and help her up. Even Chloe, sprawled on the floor, looked up at me with a shattered, desperate hope. I paused and glanced back at her. Then I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Hello, dispatch. Yes, I'm at the downtown Grand Hotel. Someone just took a severe fall, and their condition is unknown. Please send an ambulance. Chapter 5. I hung up the phone and shrugged at the dumbfounded crowd. It's best to leave professional matters to the professionals. With that, I walked out of the banquet hall without looking back. Behind me, Chloe unleashed a wail of utter, absolute despair. Heart of stone? No, I just had no intention of tripping over the same rock twice. Her dignity and her pride were personally pulverized by my hands tonight. But it wasn't enough. The college admissions exams were the final judgment. At the last class party before graduation, the atmosphere was somewhat melancholic and subdued. Someone suggested playing Spin the Bottle for Truth or Dare to add a little final madness to our high school careers. The bottle spun and spun until it inevitably pointed at me. The entire class perked up. Truth or Dare? Truth, I said, unbothered. The guy who asked had a sly grin. Ethan, right now, is there anyone you like? The moment the question was asked, the room went completely silent. Every single pair of eyes involuntarily darted toward Chloe in the corner. Lately, she had grown incredibly quiet. She had lost a lot of weight, shedding the aura of the radiant school beauty for a fragile, pitiful, broken look. A faint, pathetic glimmer of hope flickered in her eyes. She was waiting for my answer. I looked at her, the corner of my lips ticking upward. Yeah, there is. I distinctly saw Chloe's eyes light up. She sat up straight, nervously gripping the hem of her shirt. The class started howling. Who is it? Who? Is it Chloe? I paused, soaking in the tension of the room, and then slowly spat out 2 words. Benjamin Franklin. Ha! The room exploded in laughter, instantly shattering any romantic tension or melancholy. The light in Chloe's face died instantly. She lowered her head, her shoulders trembling slightly, looking like a butterfly battered by a thunderstorm. I felt zero remorse. The game continued. This time, the bottle landed squarely on Chloe. She chose Dare. The guys leading the game seemed to have plotted this in advance, handing her an impossible task. Kiss a guy in this room. Everyone's gaze bounced back and forth between the two of us. This was an obvious setup. One final, manufactured opportunity for Chloe. Under the watchful eyes of the entire room, Chloe stood up. She took a deep breath, as if summoning every ounce of her remaining strength, and walked toward me, step by step. Her heels clicked against the hardwood. Clack, clack, clack. Every step felt like it was stepping on the beating hearts of the crowd. She got closer. 10 feet, 5 feet, 3 feet, just as she stopped in front of me, preparing to lean down and offer up the very last shreds of her dignity. I reached in my pocket and pulled something out. A blue, disposable surgical mask. I snapped it over my face. Then I looked up at her, paralyzed in front of me, and spoke in an entirely flat voice. Don't. I'm a germaphobe. Time seemed to freeze. Chloe's body went stiff as a statue. Every drop of color drained from her face, leaving nothing but an endless, shattered paleness. I'm a germaphobe. It cut deeper than the most venomous curse. It pierced straight through her final line of defense, grinding whatever pathetic, wavering pride she had left into dust. I stood up and looked around at the stunned faces of my classmates. My expression turned dead serious. Listen up, everyone. We have our APs and SATs coming up. Stop wasting time on this pointless nonsense. Women only slowed down my MIT acceptance. With that, I grabbed my backpack and, under the gaze of everyone present, was the first to walk out of the party. I didn't look back. I knew that Chloe's delusions had been permanently eradicated tonight. She finally understood. We could never go back. Not because she couldn't, but because I refused to. The weather was beautiful on the day the exam scores were released. When I checked my portal, I was sitting at home eating a slice of watermelon. Perfect 1600 on the SAT, straight 5s on all my APs. A national merit scholar, top of my class in the state. My parents were so thrilled, they almost slammed the watermelon rind onto my head. I calmly sliced another piece. Everything was going exactly according to plan. The admissions rep from MIT called that same afternoon, offering me prime conditions and urging me to commit. Meanwhile, Chloe's world was being torn apart by a hurricane. She bombed her exams. A massive, catastrophic failure. Her scores weren't even high enough for an average state school. It was unexpected, but entirely logical. Her mental state had completely collapsed over the past few months. She was in no condition to study. But the straw that broke the camel's back wasn't just a straw. It was an anvil. Before the shock of her academic failure could fade, a much bigger bomb detonated in her home. Her father's company, due to reckless expansion, a severed supply chain, and an anonymous tip regarding massive tax evasion, imploded overnight. The banks seized their assets, partners terminated their contracts, and her family was instantly saddled with catastrophic debt. The butterfly effect. In my past life, it was Tristan's family that went bankrupt, and Chloe had immediately cut ties with him to continue leeching off me. In this life, the tables had turned. It was her turn. Overnight, Chloe Sterling plummeted from an untouchable, arrogant princess to a debt-ridden, impoverished Cinderella. She came to find me. She stood outside my apartment building, right below the window I used to stare out of while daydreaming about her. She wore a faded t-shirt and jeans, no makeup, looking completely haggard. The terror and helplessness in her eyes were impossible to hide. Ethan, she called out, her voice raspy. Can I borrow some money from you? She kept her head bowed, too ashamed to look me in the eye. My dad company needs cash flow. I'll write you an IOU. I swear I'll pay you back. I looked at her. I looked at the woman I had once loved into the dirt and then hated to my core. Now, she was standing before me in the most pathetic state imaginable, begging. I didn't answer right away. I pulled out my phone and opened the calculator app. Sure, I said. She jerked her head up, a flash of hope igniting in her eyes. I can lend you the money, but we play by the rules. I turned the screen to face her. We write up a contract, black and white. As for the interest, we'll go with the standard loan shark rate, a VIG of 30%, compounding weekly. That's fair, isn't it? 30%. The absolute worst of predatory lending. The hope on Chloe's face shattered piece by piece. She looked at me, her eyes full of alienation and disbelief. She probably never expected me to be so cold, so ruthlessly transactional. Ethan, we what? I cut her off. We aren't family, and we aren't friends. Why should I help you unconditionally? Because you treated me like a dog? Or because you took the gifts I gave you and threw them in the trash? With every word, her face grew whiter. Tristan's car pulled up right then. He stepped out, paused when he saw Chloe, but quickly looked away and addressed me with deep respect. Ethan, bro, the MIT rep called again. They want to take you out to dinner. Tristan's family, by following my advice, hadn't just dodged a bullet. They had struck gold. Their status in the city was more secure than ever. The stark contrast was like a ringing slap across Chloe's face. She finally understood. All her past superiority, all her arrogance. It was nothing but a fragile bubble built on money and looks. Once those were gone, she was nothing. I didn't waste another breath kicking her while she was down. I also wasn't going to play the saint and give her any unrealistic hope. I just stared at her with strict business professionalism. Do you want a loan or not? Let me know when you decide. This rational, freezing, purely transactional attitude drove her to a deeper despair than any insult could have. She stared at me for a long, long time. Tears slipped out silently. In the end, she didn't say a word. She turned around and stumbled away. Her silhouette looked desolate, like a dead leaf blown away by the autumn wind. Her laughable pride, just like her family's wealth, had finally hit zero. College started. I became a legend in the MIT computer science department. The aura of a perfect score genius, paired with my clean-cut looks, and that dead-eyed, seeing through the matrix vibe, made me incredibly popular on campus. Chloe didn't take a gap year to retake her exams. The massive shift in her family's finances left her with no way out. She ended up at a local community college across the river in Boston, studying while working off-campus jobs to help pay off her family's debts. The next time I saw her was at a coffee shop near campus. I had gone to grab a drink with some classmates, and she was the barista working the counter. She wore an ill-fitting uniform, keeping her head down as she silently wiped down the espresso machine. She was no longer a proud swan. The jagged edges of her personality had been sanded down completely by reality. When she saw me, her body stiffened, but she quietly turned away, pretending not to notice. My friends and I grabbed a table. She brought over our drinks, her voice as quiet as a mouse. "Hi, here's your order. Do you need anything else?" She didn't look up at me once the entire time. After that, I frequently bumped into her. I'd see her handing out flyers on my way to the library. I'd see her washing dishes at a food truck on my way back from the dining hall. She had become silent and resilient, like a weed stubbornly growing through a crack in the pavement. Sometimes, after a basketball game, I'd find a bottle of water sitting on the bench. Chapter 6. By the time I finished drinking it and looked around, she would have already disappeared into the crowd. She wasn't loud and obnoxious like she was in high school. She existed on the periphery of my world in an almost invisible, humble way. Tristan got into a decent university in Boston too, not far from me, and he visited often. He noticed the change in Chloe as well. "Ethan, bro, she seems to have actually changed." One winter day, Tristan watched her handing out flyers in the freezing wind, shivering violently, and felt a pang of pity. I took a sip of my hot coffee and replied coolly, "Even if she has, it has nothing to do with me. Expired goods are expired goods. That's a basic rule of adulthood." Tristan sighed and didn't say another word. The turning point came on a winter night. I was walking out of the library, passing by a VIP karaoke bar, when I saw a crowd gathered near the entrance. I heard Chloe's voice, laced with sobs and sheer panic. "Let go of me. I'm not drinking that." I pushed through the crowd. A severely intoxicated frat boy was grabbing Chloe, who was working as a waitress there, trying to force a glass of liquor down her throat. I recognized the guy. He was a trust fund kid from another department, known for flashing his parents' cash and acting untouchable. "Stop playing innocent. You're basically working the streets anyway. Drink this with me, and the cash is yours." He slapped a stack of bills directly against Chloe's face. Her head whipped to the side from the impact, and tears immediately flooded her eyes. The bystanders were just watching the spectacle. Nobody stepped in. I hadn't intended to get involved in this mess. But what the frat boy said next crossed the line. "You think you're still that untouchable high school princess? Let me tell you right now, you aren't even fit to shine my shoes." He reached out, trying to rip her uniform shirt. I frowned. Bullying the weak didn't make you a tough guy. I stepped forward and clamped my hand down on his wrist like a vice. "Bro, I think that's enough." The frat boy turned, realized who I was, and scoffed. "Ethan Vance? The genius? What, playing knight in shining armor?" He ripped his hand away, sneering. I didn't respond to him. Instead, I pulled out my phone, snapped a crystal-clear photo of his face, and texted it directly to someone right in front of him. Message attached. "Dean Henderson, we have a student engaging in public intoxication and harassment off campus, violating the code of conduct and damaging the university's reputation." Dean Henderson had moved from our high school to become the head of the university disciplinary board at our college. The frat boys sobered up instantly. "You, what the hell are you doing?" "Nothing. Just fulfilling my duty as an outstanding student to uphold the school's reputation." I pocketed my phone and stared him down. "Now, get out of here." The frat boy's face cycled through several colors before he glared at me fiercely and scurried away with his brain-dead entourage. The street fell quiet. Chloe stood frozen in place, tear tracks staining her cheeks. She looked at me, her eyes incredibly complex. She thought I was standing up for her. She thought I still had a place for her in my heart. She took a step toward me, her voice trembling. Ethan, thank you. I cut her off. Don't misunderstand. My voice was ice cold. I didn't do it for you. Even if it was a stray dog being kicked on the street today, as long as it didn't bite me, I would have stepped in. So don't read into it. With that, I turned on my heel and walked away without giving her a second glance. Behind me, I could hear her suppressed weeping. A long time later, when I was almost back to my dorm, my phone buzzed with a text message. It was from her. It was just one sentence. I know. Thank you for making me grow up. Staring at the text, I felt absolutely nothing. Grow up? That was her business. My rebirth wasn't meant to play the role of her savior, nor was I waiting for her to mature. I was here strictly to live my best life. Mentally and physically destroying her was just a side quest. The ultimate torture was giving her a glimpse of hope, only to personally extinguish it in front of her face. Now it seemed she had finally accepted reality. Good for her. Years flew by, bringing us well past our college graduation. Using the massive returns from my stock portfolio and tech projects during college, I founded an artificial intelligence startup. We rode the crest of the tech boom, and the company rapidly expanded, quickly becoming a Silicon Valley unicorn. On my 30th birthday, I rang the opening bell for our IPO at NASDAQ. I became the widely celebrated Mr. Vance, a young, visionary tech billionaire. Tristan, meanwhile, had become my VP and closest confidant. He had completely shed his arrogant rich kid persona, maturing into a reliable, grounded executive, my right-hand man. We had evolved from high school rivals to the ultimate business partners. One evening, our high school reunion was held. The organizers had moved mountains to get me to attend. In the private banquet room, almost everyone flocked to me, kissing up, offering toasts, seeking favors. Those who had once looked down on me were now practically tripping over themselves to call me Mr. Vance. I entertained them politely, finding the whole thing profoundly boring. Just then, the doors to the banquet room opened. Chloe walked in. She wore a simple, professional pantsuit. Her makeup was light, her hair neatly tied back. She looked capable, grounded, and elegant. She was no longer a Cinderella, nor was she a princess. She was an ordinary employee at a mid-sized firm who had relied on her own hard work to pay off her family's debts, living a quiet, stable life. When she saw me, she paused for a second, then offered a calm, relieved smile. The entire room went silent. Everyone knew the history between us, and the atmosphere instantly grew tense. Chloe picked up a glass of wine and walked over to me. Ethan, her voice was steady. It lacked the arrogance of her youth and the pathetic desperation of her college years. Long time no see. Long time no see. I picked up my glass. She looked at me, her eyes clear and honest. I'm sorry for everything I did back then. I truly wish you the best. With that, she downed her glass in one go. I finished mine as well. Let the past be the past, I said, looking at her earnestly. I'm doing incredible now. My life is amazing. No fake pelaitnis. No hypocritical modesty. It was the absolute truth. After the reunion, Tristan and I walked out of the hotel. The evening breeze felt fantastic against my face. Tristan offered me a cigar, lighting one up for himself. Ethan, honestly, you really haven't considered her at all. She seems pretty grounded now. I smiled and waved off the cigar. I looked out at the sprawling city lights, the neon glow reflecting against the clouds. Grounded. Tristan, do you know what the two most useless things in the world are? He paused. What? Late arriving affection, and a sudden awakening after all the bridges have been burned. My future is the stars and the tech frontier, not grazing on old pastures. Chloe walked out of the hotel doors and saw us, standing next to my Aston Martin parked by the curb. She didn't approach. She just stood far away, watching me. In her eyes, there was peace, but also an undeniable, unhidden sliver of regret. I pulled the door open and got in. Tristan hopped into the passenger seat. The supercar let out a deep, guttural roar, carving a brilliant streak of light through the night. In the rearview mirror, Chloe's figure grew smaller and smaller until she vanished completely. Bro, for our next project, what do you think? About getting into space exploration? Tristan asked, eyes gleaming with excitement. I slammed my foot on the gas, the car tearing down the coastal highway under the fading sunset. Let's do it. Let's show Silicon Valley what true innovation looks like. Rebirth wasn't about fixing past regrets or falling in love with the same person all over again. It was about finding the better, brilliant, unstoppable version of yourself that was always meant to shine. As for love, a wise man avoids the trap of romance, and a lone wolf gets his PhDs. No, scratch that. A lone wolf rings the opening bell at NASDAQ. Nothing feels better than that. Story complete.